Welcome everyone to a very special That Nintendo Show presentation. My name is Mitch. I'm joined today by my friend Chase.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the show. So today was the first day of Summer Games Fest. There were a lot of games that got announced. So many that I stopped keeping track. But we have plenty of stuff to go over here. So we've got to go over the Summer Game Fest, where we're going to talk about the stuff that we know is coming to Nintendo Switch. And then we have a list of games that are, some of it's probably going to come over to the Switch at some point. And then finally, Chase, our resident indie reporter, has pretty much spent the entire day watching all of the indie showcases, being the Devolver Direct, the Day of the Devs, and then there was another one, right? What was the other
Guerilla
one?
was yesterday. The Guerilla Collective was yesterday, but I didn't watch it yesterday. I watched it earlier today. So yeah,
Oh,
I have been watching video game trailers like all day.
okay. Well, I mean, it's good. There's a lot of stuff to come out. Hopefully, a lot of
Yeah.
physical copies that you can collect.
Yes. I love them physicals.
Which we'll go over some of that. Before we get into it, though, I do want to just get your idea of what did you think about Summer Game Fest? Because I appreciated the fact that, one, it was an hour less long than the Game Awards. I know there wasn't.
Yeah. I know. I was like, yay! They're not gonna do like music performances. They're just gonna focus on the games, and just like that's what I want.
Yeah.
And like even Jeff was saying like don't go into it like expecting all AAA releases. I think that's like a very unrealistic expectation that like a lot of people just have like out of the box. But yeah, like I think overall it was good. I mean, they had like a lot of like cool announcements, like a lot of they showed off like a bunch of indie games that like people wouldn't have like seen without them being at the Summer Games Fest. And also I really liked, I mean, I guess we'll talk about it, but like what Bloomhouse and Outer Sloth is doing. So
Yeah.
I was really stoked on that.
Yep. I definitely want to hit up on that. So before we break all this down, first off, if you haven't liked the video yet, make sure you go and do it, and subscribe if this is your first time here. Really close to hitting 500 subs, and it'd mean the world to me if you helped push me over the edge with that. We're going to break this down into separate parts. So the first part here, we're going to go over the stuff that, again, is for coming to Nintendo Switch with a confirmation that it's happening. Which, out of the 50-ish games that were at Summer Game Fest, only 6 of them are confirmed coming to the Switch, and they all kind of happened towards the beginning of the showcase, and there was a lot of me writing notes waiting for the next ones to come out, and they just never came.
Yeah.
But honestly, the big one, though, I didn't know this was coming to the Switch, and that is the Lego Horizon Adventures, which we kind of knew that there was going to be a Lego Horizon Zero Dawn.
Like there were like rumors of a like game, or it was either going to be a game or like a just collaboration between like Lego and just Horizon, like another collaboration. But yeah, we got actual gameplay, and it's coming to Switch, which I was very, very surprised.
Yeah, that was like the first thing, and they announced. I was like, "Whoa!" It wasn't ready for a Switch drop like that.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff I actually was kind of expecting it to not say Nintendo Switch, but maybe just have a Nintendo logo on there, which would make me think, like, "Oh, that's the stuff that's coming to Switch too." But they're a little more coy about it. So if it wasn't coming to Switch 1, then it definitely didn't get a banner with it. But yeah, this is coming out. Did they give a release date? I didn't write one down.
Holiday season.
Oh, okay, cool. So not too much longer to wait on that. So I've not, as I've talked about on the channel before, as far as the Lego Zelda stuff, like I'm not a big Lego guy, but I think this is a very interesting collaboration. Seeing Horizon Zero Dawn on Nintendo consoles is going to be, or Horizon content on Nintendo consoles is going to be a little weird, but we're in uncharted territory with a lot of these games going to other platforms. So who knows? It might be a lot of fun. Next was Harry Potter Quidditch Champs, which I swear we've seen this before, but everyone's acting like it's new. But
Yeah, it's new. Yeah, like there was talks about it getting added to Hogwarts Legacy, but then I think it became like an ambitious project, and I think they decided to make it its own game. Which, I mean, it looks fun. I'm just not like a sports kind of person, so it's not really my thing.
Yeah, I'm not either, and I believe this one was coming to all platforms also.
Yes.
But yeah, that is coming out September 3rd. Honestly, out of everything though, um, Neva, however you say that,
Neva.
Neva, that game is probably one of the best looking games that got shown off today.
Yeah. Did you play Grease?
I have not played Grease.
You should definitely play Grease.
Well, you are my indie consultant, so I'll
Yes.
definitely have to go check out Grease.
I played it on multiple platforms, so it's very great game.
Yeah, it's gosh, I couldn't just get over like the art style for this game, and all I was thinking is like, yeah, I would probably play this on my TV as I mostly play my Switch, but playing this on an OLED Switch, like, oh my god, the colors are gonna pop so well on that. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. Next was, and then this was like one of the things that actually unfortunately got leaked before the Summer Game Fest, and there's a Civ 7 is coming out next year, and it's actually coming to Switch. And I know Civ 5 and Civ 6 are also on the Switch, but from my understanding is that they don't run that great compared to other consoles. So it's one of those situations where if it's the only means of way for you to play it, by all means, it's going to be worth it. But you know, you've got other stuff. And there was one called Battle Crush. It was an early access game coming out on Switch Mobile and PC, maybe Switch Mobile and something else.
Yeah,
coming out later this month. And then of course the big one was Sonic and Shadow Generations, which we already knew about, but it's coming out on October 25th. So out of those, Chase, what was your favorite game, you think?
I think the Horizon game. Like, I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a lot of fun whenever that. And it's got couch co-op. Like that's, you don't see that very often, especially on like Nintendo. Well, Nintendo games are usually where you see couch co-op, but a lot of games, especially when they get ported over, lose features like that. But yeah, those were the 6 like major Switch announcements that came out of Summer Game Fest. Of course, we're still waiting for a Nintendo Direct to happen to where they're gonna finally like blow the lid off a lot of this stuff. And of course, we have Microsoft Showcase over the weekend where some of their stuff could also be making the way over to Nintendo Switch. But we're going to turn our attention now to the rest of Summer Game Fest, where, again, just because it didn't say it's not coming to Switch doesn't mean that it won't potentially show up on the current Switch or Switch 2 at some point. So instead of listing off all 50 of these games, we're going to kind of just pick out some of the highlights from here and go through them. So Chase, I'm going to have you start. I want you to pick out of everything we saw today, just one game to start off with.
My gosh, there were so many games. Man, I could definitely see that Power Rangers game coming to Switch.
Yeah, I'll write that down too. So that was it was just called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, this is like your old classic, just beat 'em up like Streets of Rage type of beat 'em up game.
I think that last one they showed, the Phantom Blade Zero trailer, like, man, that game, like when they showed it last year, people were like, that doesn't even look real. Like, doesn't like they were like, there's no way that combat's real, and they're like, yeah, this is actual footage, So
I can't speak for the combat side, but I remember the first time I saw Black Myth Wukong. This doesn't look like a real game. Like this looks like a movie.
Yeah, and that did get delayed on the Xbox side, so they didn't specifically say it's because of the Series S, but I'm guessing they're having issues trying to run it on the Series S.
Yeah, I think one of the big ones for me, and it's actually just kind of, it's an indie game, is called Cuff Bust, which is a game that's made by the developer for Choo Choo Charles. Single player or single developer. Cuff Bust, it's a cooperative prison escape game, but everyone's like these little cute little aliens, and it just looks like you can just get into all sorts of messes with that stuff, and it almost feels like it's perfect for the Switch. I doubt it'll ever have like couch co-op or anything like that, but if you find people to play that online with, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to get into that.
Oh, I love that they got Tim Robinson to promo Skate, because like he is just hilarious, and I just love him. But yeah, that Skate's, it's coming out eventually, but
yeah, eventually, yeah. Gosh, it's been so long since they ever announced. It was back during COVID when they announced that, right?
Yeah, it's been a while, and then they announced it was going to be free to play, and then like all this stuff. So,
and it got leaked at one point, but it was like polygons instead of like actual player models and stuff. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to look forward to with that. I've always preferred Skate over Tony Hawk. I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but just it was just a little more wacky, and in my opinion, I always appreciated that.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter Wilds looks amazing. I think this game eventually will come to Switch 2 whenever that system comes out. Again, coming out next year, but every time they show this game, I just get wowed by it. It's mostly just visual stuff. Like that's how most of these games usually get you on there. Before we get any other picks, you mentioned this earlier, and I want to bring this back up. So Blumhouse, the horror franchise, I guess, or collective, whatever you want to call it. They are now working on Blumhouse games, which instead of it being like a studio that develops its own games, they pretty much are providing funding to indie developers that are making horror games and publishing them on their behalf. And every single one of these games that they showed off, I fell in love with, even though it was just like the 5-10 second little snippet of what we just saw. Right. They all look so cool, and I'm not a spooky game guy.
Yeah, same.
But they all had their own unique art style with them. They're all different types of horror and stuff, as the developer or one of the people from Blumhouse came out on stage and said. So to go through this list here, we have Crystal Theater of Idols, Grave Seasons, Sleep Awake, Fear the Spotlight, which is the one that's coming out this year, which I think they said it was going to get some highlights in either the Day of the Devs or the Devolver thing. Did you see anything more about that one?
Did not.
You did not? Okay. I might be remembering that wrong. And The Simulation. So a lot of different little indie games coming out here, and I'm so excited for all of them to come out, and I think it goes a long way with indie games in my opinion, but like supporting these studios, checking out their games, usually they're no more expensive than $20 or so, just to give them a chance, and it helps the people that make those games make better games in the future, and because they learn from them, instead of like where we've had discussions before, maybe not on this channel, about how like where some of these developers will put a game out, and if it flops, that's it, they don't get another chance. So yeah, it's a lot easier to get people back on for the next game. And then of course, in that same vein, Inner Sloth, which is the creators for Among Us, have developed a new, I don't know how you wanted to, how would you describe what Outer Sloth is?
I would say it's a development company or a publisher for games. I'm not really exactly sure the terminology, but yeah, they're going to be taking the money that they made from all their success and shipping it into indie games, which is great.
Yeah, and there was 6 games that they also talked about being the ones they're supporting first, called Mars First Logistics, Battlesuit Aces, Mossfield Archives, One Button Bosses, which looks super fun, Rogue Eclipse, and Project Dosa. There's there's a ton of games. Like, if you have time to go through and watch the showcases, like Chase, just definitely go through and just check out all this stuff, because we probably just talked about 20 games, and I think it's been like 5-10 minutes of recording that segment, and that doesn't even do it justice. Like, no. You're gonna see clips on the screen while you're watching this of like some of this stuff, but again, it's so much more detailed than that. So definitely give us some of these developers a shot and check out some of these indie games. I do want to hit up on a couple other things real quick. And Hyper Light Breaker, super excited for that. Hyper Light Drifter was a lot of fun. Party Animals getting new content. Party Animals is such a fun time, and I wish that game would come to Switch. I think it eventually will. Right now, it's just a Game Pass exclusive or on PC. And I think that's pretty much all I got. What other games stood out to you, man?
I know your favorite game, Power World's getting more content.
Boo! I'm kidding.
What else? Yeah, Valorant's coming to PS5, Xbox. That was kind of big news. Let's see.
I'm gonna jump in real quick and make a comment about how disgusting Slitterhead was.
Yeah, it looked like what was that movie? Gosh, go ahead, go talk about it. I'm gonna look it up.
Oh, I was gonna say it's made by one of the guys that made Silent Hill, so I believe. So it's got the horror down, and the minute that I saw like some guy's neck just like coming out of his body and his head was still on it, I was like, oh god, like just horror. That's taking the horror a little too far for what I'm like to play in video games. But I mean, it obviously looks more realistic than any of the Blumhouse stuff we were just talking about. So
I'm trying to think of the movie that it reminded me of, but there was a movie and it was like this guy and like he could like project himself into like other people's bodies by like touch or like whatever, and like that's how that game kind of looked like. Like you're controlling this like entity where you're like jumping from body to body.
Yep, that's a good way of putting it. That one I imagine probably won't make its way to Nintendo. They
probably not.
Sometimes they like to have content restrictions on what makes the jump. Anime waifus are okay, but not that kind of gore.
I think it's Fallen, the movie Fallen I'm thinking of.
Okay. And yeah, I think as far as the game or Summer Game Fest, that's pretty much the main things, other than like I would highlight the fact that I think it's really awesome that King of Fighters and Street Fighter 6 are doing a crossover. So my boy Terry Bogard can jump in there and beat up on Ryu. It's gonna be a good time. Not that I've played Street Fighter 6, but that's just how that's gonna happen. Well, I'm glad you saved all your extra time for talking about Day of the Devs and Devolver Digital. So let's go ahead and preface this. Devolver Digital or Devolver Direct and Day of the Devs came on right after the Summer Game Fest stuff, and Mitch went to go eat dinner, and Chase braved through another hour and a half to 2 hours of presentations of new games. And the floor is yours, Chase. I want you to tell everyone your favorite thing and why was it the 10-minute concert?
Let me see. There was a lot of really cool stuff, especially UFO 50, which was like it's from Mossmouth, so it's a retro collection of 50 games, like brand new games. Like some of them are kind of short, some of them are longer, but they're all like start to finish like a brand new game. That is they like limited their like color palettes and all that, and the music has to be like within certain parameters. Like basically is as if like these games came out in like I think they said like the late 80s.
Okay.
Or early 90s or somewhere around there, but like that was the parameters for the games for this collection. That's coming out on Steam on September 18th. But it's got like tons of different genres, like I mean just everything. There's like 50 different games, which was really cool. They showed off some more of Screenbound, which I don't know if y'all have seen this, but it's basically like you're holding a Game Boy in front of you, and while you're moving the buttons on the screen, the world around you is also moving. It looks really, really cool. It's like 2D and 3D at the same time, and they kind of like showed off like how they kind of came up with the ideas with the prototype, and then the actual like formation of the game and how it works. And so that was pretty cool.
That sounds super interesting. I love it when indie devs just do.
Yeah, like
wild stuff.
He said, like the guy said, like he would just like was watching something and he just had this idea in his head and he just like got on the computer and like tried to make a prototype, and it was like, man, this actually came out really cool. So, yeah, building relationships looked like a great, hilarious game, where it's about making relationships with buildings, and you control a house that jumps around and floats through the air and talks to other buildings. So it's like one of those like crazy ideas. Like it's like, oh yeah, I should totally make up a game about this, and then someone actually did it. And but yeah, it was pretty cool. They did a little to the left had more DLC, which if you don't know, that's a really, really cool puzzle game. That is on Switch. I think that DLC is coming out in June. Said Hello Again, which is like a Groundhog Day kind of like game where there's like a time loop, And so every time there's like a 12-hour loop, and like everything in the game is like based on that timer. So if you've ever played, I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, but it's basically like it's a time loop. There is like things that happen, and you can use those things to your advantage to where you tell the person that you're trying to talk to, like, oh, this is I already understand this, so you can use that to your advantage, or you can manipulate them because you already know information in the future. Mm-hmm. So it's like things like that. It looked really, really interesting. Let's see what else was happening on that.
It's okay if you need to look through your notes. I mean, you probably took a ton of them. Like, I wrote 4 pages just on Summer Game Fest.
Yeah. The people that made Road 96 is making a new game called Tides of Tomorrow, and it looked like when you like a game that you play where you'll play it and then someone else will play it, and then you kind of like see like in the future like what they do and like what they do for you. So you're kind of like setting up the next person's game kind of thing.
Okay.
It looked really interesting. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but that's kind of how it looked like. That was Tides of Tomorrow. There was a few other little games I look kind of cool, which was like While Waiting looked like a really kind of goofy game, and Tom the Post Girl looked really, really interesting. It's like a kind of like a spooky-ish game, but like the art style looked really cool, like all hand drawn, where you're just delivering like packages and spying on your neighbors, kind of deal. So it looked kind of cool though.
Combo.
Yeah, with like it looked like there were like people that are like double-headed and stuff like that, and weird things happening in the background, and murder and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So
good lord,
yeah,
that actually sounds really fun.
Yeah. That was it for Day of the Devs, and then Devolver always is like really cool. Like they always do like some weird psychological stuff going on with their presentation between their announcements. They did was it Tenjutsu? It's from the Dead Cells designer, but it's like it looked like a kind of like a beat 'em up, shoot 'em up kind of game. Looked really cool. Kind of like they describe it as like a mix of like Streets of Rage and Sifu and Dead Cells.
Okay.
So yeah, and then they announced Possessors, which is from the creators of Hyper Light Drifter and Solar Ash. It's from Heart Machine Games, which is like a side scroller action game. It looked really, really beautiful. And Angerfoot finally got a announcement date, which is going to come out next month, July 11th. And it was cool because I didn't realize that they may have shown it before, but like the different, like you collect sneakers, and like each sneaker has a different ability. So you're like kicking people, and like things are exploding, or kicking people and things are cutting, or there's like anti-gravity sneakers where you're like people are floating around. So it's kind of cool. Talos Principle 2 DLC got announced, which is coming out soon. Cult of the Lamb couch co-op got announced, or a local co-op got announced. So
I have a friend that's really loves Cult of the Lamb, so I'm sure she's going to be excited to know that that's getting some updates.
Yeah. So yeah, Cult of the Lamb was like definitely like one of those games that I jumped into. I didn't really know like a lot about, because like I was just like, oh man, this looks really cool. And it took me like a little while just to kind of like get like the gist of like what I'm supposed to be doing, and like how things work. And like once I got that, I was like, oh man, I could not put it down. I was playing like for like weeks straight.
Yeah, I remember they had like a free trial for it at one point on like the Switch, and I downloaded the free trial, and then something else came out, and I never got around to playing it.
Oh yeah, I know that. I know how that goes.
As that usually happens with me. But it's all good. And what about the Guerilla Collective? Anything notable come out of that yesterday?
Yeah, that was like 2 hours long, which was insane. Let me see.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm gonna go through I'm gonna go through the list real quick. There was one that they showed like the very end that I was like really, really pumped on. Let me see if it's on here. They did one called, it was called Pinball Spire, I believe. Which is like a pinball Metroidvania, which the only other game that's kind of like that was Yoku's Island Express, I believe is what it was called. But it looked really cool. Like, I'm really excited for that. There was a game called Constance, which was like a 2D hand-drawn action adventure. It looked like a Metroidvania. It could just be like a really cool platformer, but it looked very, very smooth and very fluid and just beautiful. And I was very, very pumped on that one. Pinball Spire was the other game. Iron Meat was a run and gun shooter that kind of looked like just go very, very gory. Devilated was a shoot, explode, slice, strike your way through anything. Labyrinth, bloodthirsty monsters tear you apart game. Toxic Crusaders is actually getting a new game. So if you're into like trauma stuff, Bloodless looked really, really good. It was like almost like a 3 or 4 color like game. So it was mostly black and white, but like splots of like red or something like that. And I mean, I think there was more color than that, but the art style was really, really cool. And I haven't seen anything that looked anything kind of like that.
I think it's very important that like a lot of these games, so this, especially with indie games being more popular now, it's like and they're always coming out, is that they all have their own unique art style. And it just showed, because if you think back, I'm gonna say 10 years ago, we'll say, or 15 years ago, is like you had like cartoony games and you had realistic games for the time, realistic games. And now it's like, you still got those hyper realistic games and you got your cartoony games, and then indies somehow have found like their own unique art style that fits, and there's so many different branches off of that, and they usually all look so incredible. And then and it all comes down to taste, because like you sit here talking about like a game that's only got 4 colors in it. It's like, well, in my head, as someone who hasn't seen what this game looks like yet, I'm like, I don't know. But then I'll see it and I'll go, wow, they did so much with only having access to 4 colors.
I think that's that's the cool thing, is like when you limit yourself to a certain control, and then you try to make something like really, really cool based on that. I think that's really awesome. Another game that was announced I think yesterday was called Egging On, and if you're a fan of like getting over it, like this is your game. You're controlling an egg and you're trying to get up high, as high as you can on, I can't remember, but they only showed like one area, but I'm sure there's like tons of different areas. But you're an egg, and like what side of the egg you hit the jump button on depends on like how high you jump. So you have to gain control of like how you learn how to control that egg. And if you fall like too far, it turns into a yolk and it splats, and you can like the yolk can like slip through the cracks of like and you can end up on the ground. And then your egg like basically regenerates its shell, and so if you can get to like a stopping point where you're not like sliding down this double ice, then you can like keep going. But like there are times where he was like there's no checkpoint, so you just have to keep learning. And
I saw a clip for that earlier today, and I was like, man, what is this? Like,
I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun.
And I don't know if it was in this showcase or not, but I did see on IGN today they had a preview or another trailer for Squirrel with a Gun, and I thought that game had already come out, and now it's like, oh, now he's got a gun, and then now it's like, oh, he's got all kinds of different guns now. Oh, he's got access to a boat. He's got rocket launchers. It's like, dude, what is going on with the squirrel? Like I want to play that game so bad. Just
I need to do it too.
The crazy kill animations that they showed in that trailer was just like, okay, like just that's gonna be a good indie game whenever that comes out.
Yeah, so they also showed Clock Tower Rewind, which is coming out I think fairly soon, but that is like the 1985 like horror game, which like a lot of horror games have based their games on this particular game, and since it only came out in Japan, like a lot of people haven't really played it, so it's getting a first, like Western release. They said they're not really messing with like any of the actual game, just more like translation, and they're just also adding a rewind feature or in like save slots, so if you want like certain endings, you can go back and like reload your saves to get certain endings. But I think that's getting a physical through the limited run coming out very soon. Anything else was coming out? I don't know. There was a lot of really cool like little games, like the Tomba Special Edition that's coming back out. SteamWorld Heist 2 looked really good. Neon Blood looked really good.
So, and I'm just going to clarify something. So a lot of these games, more than likely, usually launch directly into Steam. Like that's usually where they show up at. And correct me if I'm wrong, but probably a lot of these didn't say coming to Nintendo at the same time.
No,
right?
like a lot of the Guerrilla Collective stuff, those are coming out mostly to Steam. Most of these are coming on Steam, but they're like a lot of times they do come to Switch or PlayStation or Xbox. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. Is like I haven't encountered that yet on this channel, but I imagine as it grows, people are going to say, hey, this is the Nintendo channel, talk about Nintendo games.
Right.
And it's like, we are, because eventually these games are going to come
like
either this Switch or the next
if they get popular enough, like a lot of times they're like, if people want them, we'll port the games to, to consoles.
Yeah, and usually, well, at least this generation, Nintendo was where most of them got ported to first.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're someone who might want to play this on PlayStation, no hate against you, but you might have to wait a little bit longer than some of these other games,
right?
Whenever they come out,
like because like when the Switch got announced, like there wasn't like a ton of games for it, but like a lot of the indie games were like getting ported like really really early in the system's life, because it was very easy to import those games from PC. So I'm sure with the Switch 2, I'm sure there'll be a lot like at the beginning that are specifically like for Switch 2.
Well, a couple of notable absentees, in my opinion. Deltarune chapters 3 and 4, nowhere to be seen at the indie showcases as of yet. I mean, we still got a whole rest of this month of gaming announcements, and I think the one that people were really hoping was going to show up somewhere was Hollow Knight Silksong. Still hasn't shown up. I think in that Devolver Direct that you showed a picture or something about how they said, don't worry, like nothing about Silksong.
Yeah, they were talking about like, because like I've been like desperately waiting for Plucky Squire announcement, the announcement date for that, and they were like, no, that we're not going to announce the date, but it is coming out this year. And they were like, but neither is Silksong because we're not publishing that.
Yeah, people just, they don't, I mean, I know it's mostly probably just people trolling and stuff like that, but yeah, it was like during the Summer Game Fest, there was a commercial, or no, it was just a trailer for something. I think it was like one of the horror games, and they're like, oh gosh, they're about to announce Silksong. I was like, can you just, he told you to set your expectations. Like, do not come in here expecting to see all this nonsense. Like, it's just
right. Because I remember I sent you like a leaked list like a while back when I think you first started the channel. And it was like all these Nintendo announcements, and it was just like, no, they're not going to do that.
No. Yeah, there's only like one or two semi-credible leakers that people should pay attention to currently. Yeah. One of them might have actually gotten shut down, so we'll see. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, especially if you're an indie fan, there's a plethora, beyond a plethora. 2 plethoras even.
Like they even started out the show. They were like, this is the top selling games on Steam for the year so far, and it was mostly indie games, which is great.
Yeah, and there's plenty of games for you to look forward to. Maybe not just on Switch, but on other platforms also. And then of course, I think the way that things are different now. So like if you think back to when E3 was a thing, is that within the span of 4 days, we had all these announcements. I mean, it was a bombshell for 4 days straight. Oh, yeah. Like every major studio went, and then it was like, oh, and then yeah, Ubisoft is doing something or EA is doing something, and now it's like, well, you've got Jeff Keighley doing his thing, and yeah, he sometimes had some pretty crazy announcements in there, but as things have progressed, especially like during the pandemic and everything, it's like, yeah, Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo really just kind of do it at their own. They march to the beat of their own drum, and usually that ends up happening sometime in the same month. But if you think about it, like we've probably named off 100 games that have just been announced in the past, we'll say 48 hours, and this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, we got all weekend, and we got like middle of next week, and then yeah, Nintendo still haven't even announced their date yet. So, but they said it was this month.
Yep. So I'm hoping it's going to be on Tuesday the 11th. So I'll be in town for it, and it's not the week after where I'm not going to be in town.
Hopefully.
But knowing them, I'll be sitting in another state looking at my iPad, and it'll say Nintendo Direct for tomorrow, and I'm going to go, oh my god, I can't even cover it. I'm not home. But we'll see. Well, hey, Chase, thanks for joining me for this special discussion. I'm sure we'll have you on again as more of this stuff breaks. Richard wishes he could be here to talk about how great Pal World is, but since he's not, I get to talk about how much I don't like Pal World, and there's nothing he can do to stop me.
Just insert clip of him laughing.
Yeah, that's what he said to do. But anyway, and also, thank you for sitting through this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Leave a like on it if you did. Subscribe again if you are new here. And we'll see you again in a couple days with probably a follow-up to the Microsoft showcase. Not because this is an Xbox show, but again, a lot of their stuff supposedly going multi-plat, so more games to talk about. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next time.